So students, in this particular video, I'm going to start with the very first topic, that is health and human diseases. So students, I would like you to advise you to focus on the disease, the causative agent, the effects, the symptoms, all those things you must relate. You must relate to the ministry, you must relate to the ministry number, name, and also if there is any kind of a act or a particular bill, act is there, that you must know all about these particular topics. Hello students, welcome to PW Only IAS. We are going to discuss the Udaan magazine, that is current affair magazine, for the subject science and technology. So students, in this particular video, I'm going to start with the very first topic, that is health and human diseases. I'm going to cover the whole 1 year current affairs related to the topic with respect to your Udaan magazine. So let's start with our first topic. The first topic is related to the disease which is called as Huntington's disease. Students, recently there is a research paper that has been published in Scientific Report Journal which clearly says that this particular Huntington disease is basically using the fruit flies. The important information has been given. Before going further, before going and discussing about what is fruit fly, I am going to talk about the disease first of all. You see, these are basically the diagrams where the normal brain has been shown and the diseased condition of a brain imaging has been shown. So what happens actually, this particular condition is basically related to the inflammation, I should say, the enlargement and inflammation of the frontal horns. So what is frontal horns? These are the basic areas. Basically, there are 4 ventricles that are being formed in the brain. These are the spaces which are formed. Out of those particular spaces, there are lateral ventricles in which there is extra enlargement in the portion of the brain area happens. When this thing happens, what actually happens? It basically is related to nervous issue. So the basic symptoms include that there is a problem in the involuntary movement. So in our body, there are 2 types of movements, voluntary and involuntary. The movements that happen by themselves are called as involuntary movements. There is a difficulty in swallowing. There is loss of coordination between the body parts. Also, there is a mental issue and emotional aspects also which are related to this condition. There is depression, mood swing conditions are there. There is difficulty in learning, and even there is a memory loss. So these are the problems which are associated with this Huntington's disease, and it is also a genetic disorder. We can call it as a genetic disorder. So if there is a statement which says that disease is basically related to the genetic aspect, yes, it is true. So it's a neurological genetic disorder. It's a neurological genetic disorder which damages our nerve cells. When the nerve cells will be damaged, definitely such conditions will be seen, and ultimately our brain will not be able to function at its best. And this is passed on from the parents also. So is it transmitted from the parents to the offsprings? If this is a statement, it is absolutely correct. And yes, it is a genetic disorder. So what exact genetic mutation that happens here? Student, there is a gene. You should remember the name of the gene. The gene name is HTT. The full form of this particular gene is basically related to the protein which it forms, and that is called as Huntingtin protein. That is H small t and small t. So this gene is producing a protein. I hope you all know that our DNA makes the protein with the help of procedures and basic mechanisms and processes that is called as transcription and translation. So you all know that our DNA makes the mRNA, and this mRNA makes the protein. So the step number 1 is called as transcription, and step number 2, process number 2, is called as translation. So the gene, the segment of the DNA, the gene basically, which is HTT gene, produces a protein, and name of the protein is Huntingtin. The difference in the spelling is there. I hope you should listen to this very carefully. Now what happens is this particular protein, the nerve cells in the body require this protein, and it is very important for the normal functioning and the survival of the brain activities and all the functioning which are related. But ultimately what happens is if this gene will be mutated. Mutations means that there is some kind of abnormal changes in the sequencing of the gene, because of which the transcription step and the translation step is hindered, and the aspect shows that ultimately this protein will not be produced, or this protein will be an abnormal protein, and ultimately it is going to destroy the neurons. Henceforth the movement part, the thinking part, and the memory part will not be working, or you can say will not be at its best, right? So considering this aspect, you must know that it is a autosomal dominant inheritance pattern or genetic disease. What is the difference, sir, between the autosomal and sex related chromosomes? So let us discuss that in a human body, you all know there are 46 chromosomes, right? So we say it that there are 23 pair of chromosomes. 22 pair are called as autosomes, and one pair is called as sex chromosomes. Within these pair of sex chromosomes, it can be a condition of XX or XY. If the condition is XY, then the boy child will be born, or an adult male is there. If the condition is XX, then we'll say that the girl child is born, or a female has double X chromosomes as sex chromosomes. So when I say it is an autosomal genetic disorder, that means it is related to the 22 pair of chromosomes which are not related to the gender, right? So I hope you understand the meaning of autosomal dominant. What do you mean by dominant, sir? Dominant means, students, basically there are alleles. The alleles are alternate forms of gene, and we know if this chromosome and this chromosome, we know that one chromosome we get it from the parent father, and the other chromosome we get it from the mother. So let us suppose this particular gene is present here, the chromosome that has been inherited from father, and let us suppose this particular chromosome, the same chromosome, the what we are getting from the mother, the gene is again at the same loci, same position. There is a possibility that one gene can be normal and the other gene one can be abnormal on that particular chromosome. So what we have represented here, this is basically chromosomes that we are representing here. On this particular chromosome, the gene present here is normal. On this chromosome, the gene present is abnormal. If there is a combination of a normal and an abnormal gene, then definitely the parent will be affected, and affected means the person is having the disease. The person is having the disease, right? Now the female is having the pair of chromosomes which are basically are not affected. So this way the segregation of chromosomes will happen while the gametes will be formed, and once the fusion of the gametes will happen, there is 4 possibility of children that can be born. And wherever there is a defective gene, if it is present, the child will be affected. The child will be affected, whether it is a boy child or a girl child, irrespective of this fact, because it is an autosomal disease and not related to the sex chromosome. Right, students? So please remember this. I understand that it may seem to be difficult to you, but the simple story is, even if there is a gene which is affected is present, the possibility of affected children or the progeny will be there. Moving forward, students, what is the methodology that is there in the research paper, and now what the idea has been shown here. So it is, see, they are saying that genetically modified fruit fly has been taken. The scientific name of fruit fly is Drosophila melanogaster, and this is the particular cute image of this particular insect, right? So it's a fruit fly and it produces a specific segment of the mutated human gene, and this specific aspect is basically helping us in identifying this problem and sorting out this problem. So the solution is that the overexpression of the specific YOD1 gene helps us in limiting the symptoms of the Huntington's disease. This is the aspect of the research which is there in the current affairs. Moving to the next topic. The next topic is, students, related to human papilloma virus. And there is a specific vaccine that has been produced, and the government has introduced a specific kind of plan to introduce these vaccines. You must know the name of the particular vaccine, and the name of the vaccine is Sarvavac. It is also, I have written it here, just a moment. Yes, this is the particular vaccine, just a moment. This is the vaccine, Sarvavac vaccine, HPV vaccine. Now, what is human papilloma virus? Human papilloma virus. This is a particularly, first of all, it's a virus. You must know this. This particular virus infects different body parts, and these body parts are basically related to the genital body parts. It affects both males and females. Remember this. This is a specific photograph of the stained virus. This is how somewhat this virus looks like. It affects males and females both. There is some kind of a confusion which is there with you, that it only affects the females genital parts. No, it affects the males as well. The male, in males there can be penile cancers, there can be genital warts, there can be anal cancers. However, in female, apart from all these type of cancers, there can be cervical cancers, there can be oropharyngeal cancers, which is related to throat and the pharynx area of our nasal passage, and valvular cancers, right? Valvula is again related to the female genital parts. Most commonly, this virus causes cancer, and most commonly this condition is seen in females. I am again repeating myself, most commonly, but it is seen in both males and females, but most commonly in females, that to the cervix area. With this aspect, you must also know the genital parts of the female reproductive organ. So there is a uterus. Within the uterus, the baby is developed here, and then the vaginal portion is there where the ejaculation of the sperms is done, and behind the vaginal part there is a cervix which is inside the body. Here the cancerous growth happens. So this aspect is related to human papilloma virus. You must know this. Now moving further, cervical cancers, if we talk about the data related to cervical cancer, it is a second most common cancers which is there in Indian females, women, and approximately in India, a fifth of the global cervical cases are found, and which are approximately 1.25 lakh cases and nearly 75,000 deaths annually. This is a huge number. This is not a small number, and this is a serious condition which is there in our country. It is more prevalent in females, and that is why it is more related to the cervical cancer is more related to females. So that is why human papilloma virus and the disease aspect is most commonly seen in context to females. But do not fall into this trap if UPSC makes a statement that males and females, they both are highly impacted with this particular virus, right? Okay. So transmission, how the transmission happens. So you see, it is a STD, that is sexually transmitted disease. It is a sexually transmitted disease. That is true. And skin to skin contact can also cause this kind of a condition, right? And the health risks are there, which is basically the genital warts. Warts means chhale. Hindi mein ise chhale kehte hain. Genital warts, cancers, and that too related to anus, cervix, and even in throat area, right? So if the statement is it happens only in the genital areas, the answer is no. It also happens in the oropharyngeal area, that is throat. Now, I've already told you about this, right? And there are a number of cases I've already told you. So cervical cancers can be eliminated. Yes, there is a vaccine. Yes, it is there. In number of the Western countries, even before the puberty, a girl attains the puberty, such kind of vaccines are given, which are actually globally, it is happening already. So what India is doing, India is planning, Cervavac is the India's first indigenous quadrivalent human papillomavirus vaccine. So what is India planning? India is planning that this kind of a vaccine, there should be a proper plan. That is the news all about. So this particular Cervavac, the first indigenous quadrivalent human papilloma vaccine. Why the word quadrivalent has been mentioned there? Because there are various strains of virus. And among these strains, 6th, 11, 16 and 18, these numbers are the numbers of the papillomavirus strains from which this vaccine helps us to give immunity. You see, both genders, the age group of 9 to 26 years, this vaccine can be given, and it has been created by the Serum Institute of India, already in news because of the coronavirus related vaccine. Try to give the answer in the comment section that which particular vaccine I am talking about when the manufacturing of the Serum Institute, manufactured by the Serum Institute of India. So it's also one of the questions that can be asked in the exam, right? So it prevents the infections from high risk papilloma viruses. The most common high risk strains are 16 and 18, which are basically causing 70% of the cancers. So in news, government is trying to give the free vaccination trials to this particular free vaccination to this particular age groups of girls, right? Government is focusing on girls, mark this. Then catch up phase is that it is going to address the missed vaccines and ultimately eventually include the routine immunization technique for the program for the 9-year-old girls. So remember this, our government is talking about girls. The vaccine is basically utilizing the Cervavac vaccine and India's first indigenously developed vaccine. So this is the aspect. Because of this, the topic was there in news. Now this is topic number 3, where the trials of human vaccine are happening for the Nipah virus. I hope students, you know what is Nipah virus. It is being said that this is basically a zoonotic disease that spreads from bats, right? So it's basically a virus that spreads from bats. So scientists at the University of Oxford, UK, they have launched first human vaccine trials for Nipah virus. These are the trials of the vaccine, and the vaccine is not commercially available yet. So in news is that this is the particular name of the vaccine, and ultimately the Oxford AstraZeneca is the name of the company, which was also related with the COVID-19. So let's take an insight of what is Nipah virus all about. This can be a possible question, that it is basically belonging to family of the viruses that is called as paramyxoviruses. Paramyxoviruses. They are basically, the first case was identified in 1998, Malaysia, Singapore. The name of the village was Nipah. That is why the name has been given here. Okay, Nipah virus. It is basically caused by the fruit bats, and this is the order of the fruit bats. Order, basically it's not the species name, it is the group of bats, right? Outbreak was first seen in Asia, including Singapore, Malaysia, and ultimately in India. From Kerala onwards, we saw the specific outbreak. It happened way past back, but some frequent cases have been seen recently also. Transmitted from animals to humans, that is why it is called as zoonotic disease. And ultimately human to human contact was also seen in 2001 when reported in a family. So if there is a statement which says that human to human contact of Nipah virus can happen, so our statement would be right. There are cases that are seen. So how this specific virus can spread? So you see, it's a bat which is a natural host, right? It has the viruses. So if this particular fruit eating bat is going to eat a specific fruit, and if this fruit is consumed by an individual, and this individual, infected individual, infects other individual, this is one route it can be transmitted. However, there is also a possibility that the contact of these bats with the pigs can also be the reason, the point of contact of the animals with the humans can also become the reason that this virus can spread. And yes, it can spread from an infected person to another infected person. Moving further, The infection and symptoms are basically, there are many cases where the patient can be asymptomatic. There are no symptoms that are seen, but respiratory infections can be there, acute respiratory infections. Fatal encephalitis. Encephalitis is basically related to the membranes of the brain, which are called as encephalon, and phalitis means the inflammation. So inflammation or swelling can be seen in the membranes of the brain, which is called as encephalitis, and even a coma stage can happen. There is an incubation period of 4 to 14 days. The incubation period means that within this particular duration, no specific symptoms of a virus will be seen, right? And diagnostic test can be RT-PCR. RT-PCR stands for reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction. So as I told you, from DNA we make mRNA, and from mRNA we make protein. So when I say reverse transcription, that means we are making the DNA out of, just a moment, that means we are making the DNA out of mRNA. So if the virus is having RNA as a genetic material, we are converting it into DNA, and then we make the copies out of it to actually analyze the copies and see how much the quantity of the virus is. Such a step, or this particular step, which is called as DNA to mRNA transcription, reverse is happening. It is called as reverse transcription, right? So reverse step is called as reverse transcription. There is also a way of using ELISA technique. So let me discuss with you what is ELISA. ELISA stands for enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. It can be of different types, but one such type is called as indirect ELISA. In this, what happens is, basically what we are trying to do, there is a specific antigen. Specific to antigen, we will add the primary antibody. Antibody is AB. Considering the primary antibody, there is another attachment of the secondary antibody. There is another attachment of the secondary antibody. Related to the secondary antibody, there will be an enzyme attached. And when the substrate will be attached to this enzyme, there will be color change. And as the color changes, which you can see somewhere, the colors are changing, it shows that the antigen was present. So this is a very quick test. In 30 minutes, you can tell us that which particular person is infected and which particular person is not infected. This is basically a biochemical test. Biochemical diagnostic test. It is not just related to Nipah virus, it is also related to AIDS. AIDS virus testing can be there. Then other coronavirus testing also happened through ELISA technique. So number of viruses, bacteria, and all those particular agents, biochemical agents or biological agents, they can be detected using ELISA technique. But when I said RT-PCR technique, it is basically related to the genetic diagnosis. Or the another diagnosis. Another term that we use here is basically molecular diagnosis. Molecular diagnosis. At the molecular level, at the gene level, you are doing the diagnosis part. So what is the WHO status? That identified as a priority disease, pandemic potential is there in Nipah, and specific drugs are not there, and we are trying to do the vaccine trials. We are trying to do the vaccine trials. These are the different types of ELISA techniques. One such method I have told you, indirect ELISA. Then there can be direct ELISA, there can be sandwich ELISA, in which the antigen is basically sandwiched between the primary and the secondary antibody. Then there is a competitive ELISA where different antibodies, they compete with the antigen. So there are different ways of ELISA that can be there. So human vaccine trials are happening. This is the news. So it is also the kind of a vaccine that is being produced. That is basically the viral vector vaccine. Now you must know what is viral vector vaccine. Viral vector. So let us take this particular virus. This is the virus. This is the virus. There is a specific genetic material of this particular virus. So this is the genetic material, which basically makes the antigens because of which we can detect it, right? So what we will take a vector virus. This vector virus is basically going to help us. This is basically not causing any disease, not causing any disease. And when this particular vector virus we use, we take out the genetic material, of the specific virus we want to make vaccine of. We introduce this particular genetic material into the vector that we are using. So it will be seen somewhat like this. The genetic material, the specific gene that we have taken, right? I'll use the same colors in fact. And ultimately the body part of the virus remains the same. So it is a viral vector, which is not transmitting the disease, but actually carrying the specific gene of the virus for which we want to make a specific vaccine. This is basically introduced in a human, and within the human body, the translation steps of this particular gene is going to happen, and within the body the antigens are produced. When the antigens are produced in the body, to specific to the antigens, antibodies are produced, and once the antibodies are produced, ultimately whenever the virus attack is going to happen, our body is already prepared with the antibodies to attack such upcoming viruses. So this is what has been mentioned here, that the function is basically it is a harmless virus to deliver the genetic instruction. I have just told you. The difference from the conventional vaccine is that they do not contain any antigen. They just contain the genetic material, which has the capability of making the antigens within the body of the human. So modified virus vector is used. Generally, the viral vector which is used here is adenovirus. Generally, adenovirus is the vector which is mostly used, and this is also used in the COVID vaccine. Right, COVID vaccine, spike proteins, I have given you the example. And limitations of natural infection is the mimics the immune response that occurs during the natural mutations, and particularly with the viruses. So it is like antibodies which are produced inside our body, and that is going to impact the upcoming virus, right? So next topic is the fourth topic. I'm trying to cover all the topics of the booklet in specific sequence so that you should not be facing any problem in revision also. The next topic is the gut microbiome and health. So in our gut, there are set of different bacteria which are there. Some are good, some are bad. That is true. And there is a specific environment, microbial environment which is there, which we are calling as biome. So microbes have a specific environment which we are calling as microbiome. Yes, तो इसे हम क्या कहते हैं? We call it as a gut microbiota या biota नहीं, biota is biotic environment, biota, right? So scientists are finding some kind of a gut is the human gut, and they may be linked to heart health, they may be related to cancers, and they may be even related to the color of the urine. So this is the scientific aspect that the context is. In 2012, the international consortium of the scientists, they launched the Human Microbiome Project, and we first of all understood about the microbiome. Even the genetic genome sequencing was done. So the genetic level, we tried to understand them. So human microbiome is the community of trillions of microorganisms which are there, and they include bacteria, they include fungus, they even include protista and viruses. So everything is there in our gut, and they also help us particularly in digestive system. So these microbes change the response to the environment, disease, and human diets, and that is what we are trying to see. So students, the question can be of two words which are there that are related. One word is basically called as probiotic, and the second word is called as prebiotic. This kind of a difference that can be asked in the exam. I have penned down these particular differences here for you. Like, we eat yogurt, and yogurt is having some particular bacteria which are useful for our body, and you also know the name, that is lactobacilli, right? So live beneficial bacteria which are there that improve our gut health are called as probiotics. Such kind of products are available in the market. We consume these particular products, and they are usually bacteria or yeast, and they are live microorganisms, and they restore and maintain our healthy gut flora. They help us in the digestion aspect, and they are often used after antibiotics for digestive disorders if there are any. But then in other comparison, there is another word, prebiotics. So this is non-digestible food components that feed good gut bacteria. So these are the basically the food particles, food aspects which are actually helping the gut bacteria so that they can breed there. So they are non-living aspects, they are indigestible fibers, and example, banana is there, garlic, onion, right? All those things are there. They promote the growth and activity of the beneficial bacteria. Remember these two terms. They can be asked in combination. The statements can be there. Do not fall into the trap of UPSC, right? So the importance of human microbiome is the microorganisms, they are dynamic. They play a very important role in our human health and diseases. They develop immunity. They help us to digest food. They even help us to absorb the nutrients. And many diseases are associated somewhere related to the micro gut bacteria or organisms, microorganisms which are there. Many autoimmune diseases such as diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, muscular dystrophy, and all such things are associated, right? So related to this, there is a aspect, that is Indian Human Microbiome Initiative. The aim was to generate a baseline microbiome data for Indians. Basically, we are using the samples of Indian gut, enabling tracing trillions of microbes that we can do. And this is initiated by the Union government, and Department of Biotechnology is playing the role, and the national institute which is there behind this, that is Pune's National Center for Microbiome Bioresearch, and which is also a part of National Center for Cell Sciences. This is extra data. A statement form question can be asked, and this microbiota stimulate the immune system. It breaks down the potential toxic food also. It synthesizes the vitamins also. This can be asked to you, that whether they are helpful in synthesizing vitamins or not. You must know the answer, that yes, somewhat the vitamin B and vitamin K vitamins are also associated to this microbiota. The next question, the next topic which is there, it is related to hepatitis A. Hepatitis is another condition which is basically related to the liver. The word hepatic, it is related to the liver, and it is basically caused by the virus which causes the inflammation in our liver. Inflammation in our liver. The news here is related to the particular first indigenously developed vaccine for hepatitis A, that is called as HaviSure. Remember, it is hepatic is the word related to liver. The virus is the reason behind this. It causes the inflammation of the liver. Liver plays a very vital role in our digestive system, right? Though the food is not passed through liver. Remember, this is also mentioned in class 10th NCRTs. Through liver, food is never passed, but liver gives its bile as a juice. Liver also produces enzymes. The bile which is there in the liver, it helps in the emulsification of the fats, digestion of the fats. Liver produces a specific enzyme. The name of the enzymes collectively called as lipases. It is all mentioned in class 10th NCRTs. These lipases help in digestion of fats. Remember this, digestion of fat. Where the bile is stored in our body? The bile is stored in the gallbladder. Gallbladder stone problem is very common, and when the stones that are happening in the gallbladder is removed. There are different kinds of stone which are there in our kidney. They are called as kidney stones. So there is a difference between gallbladder stones and kidney stones. I am relating it. When I talk about hepatitis virus, there are various type of hepatitis virus. which causes various type of diseases. The diseases or causative viruses are hepatitis A is the virus name. So the disease type is hepatitis A, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, D, E, and autoimmune hepatitis. There is not much information related to this. This we are talking about in this news, but UPSC has already asked a question related to hepatitis B and hepatitis C. You see, the specific difference between the two is that for which the vaccine is available. The vaccine availability is not there for hepatitis C. Remember this aspect, that vaccine availability is not there for hepatitis C. The most deadly and most common are hepatitis B and hepatitis C, and in addition hepatitis A also to an extent. But the most cases are seen of hepatitis B and C, and they are basically the most reasons for causing the problems or deaths related to hepatitis. One more thing, if somebody asks you, is this condition, hepatitis condition, is a STD, can it transfer through sexual methods? The answer is yes. Yes, it can be transferred through the sexual modes, right? This is also there. Rest of the things are mentioned in the table form. Refer to the table. Moving forward to the topic, that Indian Immunologicals was established by the National Dairy Development Board in 1982, and its object is of making the vaccines available to the farmers at an affordable price. It was basically founded in 1965, transformed the dairying into the instrument for development of the India's rural purpose. This is simply related to the National Dairy Development Board. The more news is that there are basically 2 doses of vaccines that should be given for hepatitis A. It is administered over 12 months of the age. Okay. It is given to at least 6 months and even after the first, and recommended for children in routine immunization and individuals at risk of exposure of traveling to regions which are most prevalent for hepatitis A. So reduced import dependency, launching particular Hevisure will decrease the reliance on imported vaccines. Many imported vaccines are there, so we are going to reduce that particular aspect. Imports will be minimized. Economic aspect is also there related to this. Next topic is basically the disease that is called as trachoma. The World Health Organization has declared Government of India eliminated from trachoma a public health problem. Some good news is there. It's not the disease which is there in the market, right, as a new disease. It's basically a condition for which India has been declared free. So you see, the other diseases where India has been declared free is a smallpox, that was in 1975. Polio, that was the last case was seen in 2011, and 2014 we were declared polio free. Similarly, globally, 1980 we were declared smallpox free, and the last case was seen in 1975. Now the next name is trachoma, and it is declared, India was declared eliminated from such kind of a problem in 2017. But since there was some kind of a cases which were seen later on, ultimately we now being declared by WHO as trachoma free. So what this particular problem of trachoma is, you see, it is the basically infection which is caused by a bacteria. It's an eye infection caused by the bacteria named as chlamydia. So there are some kind of small bristles that you can see on the eyelids, right? Inflammation is there, upper eyelid particularly. Then there are some kind of scars which are seen when you pull the eyelashes. And if this is not treated properly, then it even cause blindness. It can even cause blindness, right? So the eyelashes, when a person keeps on scratching it on the cornea, it can infect and damage the eye, and it can lead to blindness situation. So all these things are mentioned here. That disease is basically an eye infection caused by chlamydia bacteria. It can basically cause irreversible blindness to an individual, and you must also know it is one of the neglected tropical disease. I'll be talking about neglected tropical disease. There can be a potential question related to this topic. Now, if I talk about, let me continue about the trachoma first. Distribution, so it is mostly related to the poor countries of Africa, Central Africa, and South America, some parts of Asia and Australia, right? Middle East. It is spreads through personal contact via hands, clothes, and all those areas because it is related to bacteria, so it can definitely transfer to that. And WHO recommends this safe strategy. That means surgery, antibiotics, facial cleanliness, and environmental improvement. So this is called as safe strategy. Okay. Moving further, Nikshay Porshan Yojana. So the support of TB patient is there, and which has been raised from 500 rupees to 1000 rupees under the Nikshay Poshan Yojana. So one thing that can be asked to you with this particular Nikshay Poshan Yojana is related to which disease? The answer would be tuberculosis. It is basically of different types, but the 85% of the cases are mostly related to pulmonary. And the pulmonary, by pulmonary I mean lungs. And the mode of infection is air to air. So if a person is coughing and this particular bacteria is then transferred from one person to another person through coughing through the air mode. And the other cases can be of joints, body parts, right? So let's talk about TB first. Tuberculosis is basically caused by a bacteria. The name of the bacteria is Mycobacterium. Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It's a type of a bacteria. Most of the cases are pulmonary cases. There can be other cases related to liver. There can be related cases of joints, skeletal system, and gastrointestinal tract. But these cases are very minimum. The most cases, 85% of the cases are related to pulmonary. Then transmission is through air, right? Coughing and sneezing, right? Basic. There are different tests of TB, the expert MTB, RIF, Ultra, TrueNet. TrueNet was also used for COVID cases. Initially, we used the TB kit, TrueNet, for COVID cases also. The treatment, we'll talk about it treatment later, but what are the basic aim of our country? The country's aim is that TB should be eliminated by 2025. And this particular aim, this particular goal that we have set, it seems to be very distant, very distant. Definitely we are very away from our targets, and we might not be able to catch hold of the goals that we set for ourselves. So let's see what would be the situation here. Definitely the country will come forward for another kind of a target. We will be looking forward because TB is still existing, and it is being said that because of the COVID conditions, the number of years that were lost is one of the reasons. So maybe the global target is basically by 2030. So these terms can be interchanged, that India's target is 2030 and WHO's target is 2025. Do not fall into that trap. Yes, it is global target is 2030. Let's be clear. Initiative will benefit 25 lakh of TB patients and 12 lakh of underweight patients. So what we have done, we have increased this pay from 500 to 1000. This is definitely going to help number of patients. When we talk about the treatment, students, there are a number of treatments. So there are line of drugs which are there. They are basically the first line of drugs. There are basically second line of drugs. There are basically third line of drugs. And the first line of drugs, the most common ones are rifampicin and isoniazid. You need not to learn the antibiotics, you need not to learn it. What I'm going to teach you here is that what is MDR and what is XDR. There is another topic which is there, which is going to come again, but let me teach you here in itself. MDR stands for multi-drug resistant situation. Multi-drug resistant situation. XDR stands for extremely drug resistant situation. MDR and XDR TB. So if we are not able to cure the tuberculosis cases with the help of first line of drugs, then it is called as MDR TB. And if we are not going to cure, if you are not able to cure the initial line of drugs and that to the subsequent line of drugs, we are not able to cure the condition that is called as XDR-TB. XDR-TB is the extreme condition. It's a condition where the number of drugs which should be there, they are limiting, and the bacteria day by day, time and again, generation by generation, it is mutating, and it is resistant now to these specific drugs, because ultimately these drugs are not causing any problem to these particular bacteria. It is flourishing, and this is a very, very difficult situation for us, because if this is not sorted out here, it may going to pose a lot of problems, not just in India but throughout the world, right? So that is why I said the treatment is, the common drugs are there, isoniazid, rifampicin and other drugs are there, but yes, we need to see the number of new drugs should be discovered, right? BCG is the name of the vaccine. BCG is the name of the vaccine which is there. So you must know that yes, the vaccine is there related to tuberculosis. About the Nikshay program, it is basically a centrally sponsored scheme. There are two types of schemes: centrally sponsored scheme, and there are basically central sector schemes. So we need to know the difference between them. I hope you know that these are centrally sponsored under the mission, National Health Mission, NHM. And these are just factual information that you should know, that the ministry which is there is Health and Family Welfare. Health and Family Welfare. So even they can say Science and Technology or Biotechnology Ministry is there, so do not fall into that trap. It supports a TB patient through direct benefit transfer of 500 rupees, but now this income has been increased from 500 to income, or I should say the support amount has been increased from 500 to 1000. Even the nutritional needs of the patient are also taken care of. Nikshay Mitras, these are the volunteers or individuals from NGO or corporates or political parties that help these TB patients. They help in giving the nutritional supplements as well. Now, eNikshay platform is another platform which is developed by Central TB Division in collaboration with National Informatics Center, NIC, and World Health Organization, WHO. This is basically helping the web-enabled system for TB patient to maintain under the National Tuberculosis Elimination Program. This is basically a technical advancement. So all TB patients, including public and private sector, must be registered on this platform. So this is one thing that can be asked in the exam, that only the government hospital related patients are enrolled in this. Remember, it is all TB patients, whether publicly reported or privately reported. Okay, all those things sometimes we do not understand well, and then we fall into this particular, we make the mistake. Even if we know the topic, then also we do the mistakes. So next is Global TB Report 2024. Yes, India reported as a slight decrease in estimated number, but still the number of cases are very high, and we are way beyond achieving our targets. High disease burden, India continues to hold the highest global burden of tuberculosis. It is approximately over a quarter, and this is basically the deaths which are reported in 2023, 2 years back. And in context to world cases, this is a very good number, very huge number. Slight decline in cases, but yes, still we are way behind. Ab ye from 3.3 lakhs to 3.22 lakhs, it's very insignificant if we see the percentage of the cases that are there in our country. Progress and shortfalls. So the targets not met. First of all, India's progress falls from WHO's NTB goals, and yes, achieving only 17.7% reductions in the cases, right? 2025 elimination goal, India aims to eliminate it, but yes, we are ahead of the global goal, and yes, we are trying to do it 5 years before the global goal, but still we are very far behind. There are significant challenges are there which remain to be meet this particular target, and that is how we are falling short. Diagnosis and treatment aspect, if we discuss, then there is improved reporting of the number of cases. India saw increase in number of cases which are being reported from 25.1 lakhs. That is true. But treatment rates, India put 85% of diagnosed patient on treatments, which is a good number again, but still we have to work much more than this. Next topic is new drugs, NOCT rules. That is National Drugs, NDCT rules, new drugs and clinical trials, NDCT rules 2019. So recently, Drugs Technical Advisory Board, that is DTAB, recommended the inclusion of all antibiotics in the definition of the new drug. So definition of new drug means that not being significantly used or approved as a safe and effective by the central licensing authority in India. Earlier, what used to happen is, if there is a specific drug, what the companies used to do, they are going to add a specific ingredient in it and make it efficient, or show it or portray it as an efficient drug, and then they say that we want to, what we want to do, we want to approve the specific patent related to this drug. But things have changed. The definition of new drug has been changed, one that has not been significantly approved, पहले से जो approved नहीं की गई है. And then the modified claims is that includes drugs already approved but now proposed with the modified claims, such as new indications, dosage forms, or administrative routes. So then the aspect of new drug comes in, and then the inclusion of all antibiotics in the definition of new drugs has happened. So what these rules are, there are first of all fixed dose combinations. The new drug can be a fixed dose combination, like paracetamol is there, and the other ingredients are there which make a specific drug which is targeting the multiple aspects of your body. For example, if I give, then we can take example of D-Cold. Example D-Cold, affecting your headache, affecting your weakness in the body, affecting also the fever related to the body. Such drugs are called as fixed dose combinations. A new drug can be a fixed dose combination. Approved drugs proposed for the first time. It has to be proposed for the first time with changes in the ratio of the ingredients. Then there can be novel drug delivery, a drug with a modified or sustained release form, or a novel delivery system. If there is a delivery system which has changed, then yes, it can be considered a new drug. Then biological product, a vaccine, a recombinant DNA product, even a monoclonal antibodies, they also can be classified as new drugs. I'll just teach you about monoclonal antibodies in 5 minutes. Wait a minute. Time frame, except for biologicals and novel forms, drugs remain new drugs for 4 years from the date of approval. We cannot increase it further. It has to be only 4 years. Now, what are monoclonal antibodies? So these are basically clones of the same cell, which is basically the antibody, right? So this is basically the monoclonal antibody. How it is being prepared, I tell you. First of all, we take tumor cells. Why? Because they can basically increase in number, or you can say they multiply fast. Since they multiply fast, we need a tumor cell. We need the plasma cell. Plasma cell, they produce antibodies, right? We fuse these particular two cells and then we make a hybridoma cell. This hybridoma cell is having the capability of producing antibodies, and that too very fast. Such type of antibodies produced from such hybridoma cells are called as monoclonal antibodies. And how we are getting these tumor cells? We are getting these tumor cells from mice. Tumor cells that we get from the mice. Such way we produce monoclonal antibodies. So what is the purpose of making such antibodies? It is basically of all the antibodies will be of same type, and we need not to take care of the animal for the longer period. We can have these antibodies from the hybridoma cells again and again and again with minimal cost. Okay, students. With respect to new drugs, about the Drug Technical Advisory Board, these are factual information, students, that DTAB, this board is the highest decision making body and technical matters related to drugs in our country. The statutory body, you take the example of this particular act, Drugs and Cosmetic Acts of 1940. It is the part of Central Drugs Standard Control Organization, CDSCO. The ministry is Health and Family Welfare. The function is that the central government and the state government on technical matters arising out of administration of drugs and cosmetics. So these are basic factual information. Refer to it. It can be a possible question. The question can be also related to Central Drugs Standard Control Organization. It is basically under the Directorate General of Health Services, National Regulatory Authority for Drugs and Cosmetics. Remember this particular act. That could be a potential question related to this organization. The next topic is 3 drugs regime for leprosy. Leprosy, I hope you know that leprosy is also caused by a bacteria, and the name of the bacteria is basically Mycobacterium. Again, the bacteria is same, that is Mycobacterium. So recently, Ministry of Health Affairs, the ministry has decided to introduce a 3-drug regime for paucibacillary cases. This term is a new term. You must know what is the meaning of the paucibacillary cases in place of 2-drug regime for 6 months. So let me first tell you what is basic difference. Just a moment. Let me first tell you what is the basic difference between these 2 terms. Okay, it is mentioned here. Yes, the paucibacillary term is basically related to 1 to 5 lesions. When the warts, the lesions are within the number 5, they are called as paucibacillary, and when the lesions are more than 5, they are called as multibacillary. So this is the actual difference between paucibacillary and multibacillary. You must know this first of all. The aim is basically stop leprosy transmission at the subnational level by 2027. So we are trying to minimize the cases of leprosy, and multi-drug therapy is also another option. This is basically the WHO recommends that this kind of medicines, they can be provided for treating leprosy cases. So yes, I have told you it is caused by a bacterium, and the name of the bacteria is called as Mycobacteria. It is also known as Hansen's disease. It is also known as Hansen's disease. This is another factual information. It is basically affecting the skin and nerves of our body. That is why I was saying the lesions. There are a number which is limited 1 to 5 or more than 5. It is a neglected tropical disease. We will discuss what is neglected tropical disease, that ultimately there are number of drugs which are minimum and that no focus is there on the treatment of such diseases. And there are many cases in 120 countries, and it spreads through respiratory droplets. Just like tuberculosis, it is also spreading through sneezing, coughing, right? Yes, it is curable, and multi-drug therapy is available for this particular condition. Next topic is multimodal generative AI in healthcare. You see, students, artificial intelligence and its application in healthcare, it is already there. It is into the picture, and the applications are coming. Now the specific focus in the mains examination or prelims examination can be not just related to the application of artificial intelligence in general. There can be a specific question of application of AI in specific area, a specific sector, for example, healthcare, right? So WHO has released the comprehensive guidelines on ethical use and governance of large multimodal models, LLMs, that is AI in healthcare. So these particular models like ChatGPT is one of them, or Bard is one of them, or Google's Gemini is there. They are rapidly integrated into the healthcare and underscoring the need for the balance of the benefits with the risk. And the key applications, they are including the diagnosis, patient's queries are there, whatever the aspect, the patient history is there, all those things can be used. So what is multimodal generative AI? It basically is a combination of data, analyzing the data. It can be a text, it can be an image, it can be audio, video, or sensor. All these things can be used. Different types of data sets are used, and then the analysis part is done. Risk associated is that basically the privacy issue can be there, the limited information there, so inaccuracy can be there in taking the decisions, medical decisions, misguiding medical decisions can be there. There are concerns related to accessibility, affordability, and automation of such kind of a technology, and this can be sensitive in health data. All these aspects are there. The approaches of WHO advocates for joint efforts in the government, developers, healthcare professionals, civil society, private sector, public sector, all should come forward. And government recommendation is that the government should invest in infrastructure and ethical standards related to this AI in the healthcare, right? So developer guidelines says that ultimately WHO advises that designing of such kind of AI tools, the specific task and higher accuracy should be there, the global challenges and regulations which are also there. So all these aspects are general aspects. There can be a mains oriented question also on the topic, and there can be a specific prelims oriented topic question can also be there. So be ready for such kind of aspects. So students, the core principles which are related to this particular topic is that we need to protect the autonomy, we respect the individual rights, that is related to the ethical aspect of the topic. We must promote the well-being of the patient, public interest is important. We must ensure the transparency in the system, foster accountability, inclusiveness and sustainability while using the artificial intelligence system. With respect to WHO, the basic things is when it was founded, the day which celebrate as the World Health Day, there are 194 members, and in six regions it is there. So United Nations Agency dedicated it to the advancing the health for all. This is the basics related to WHO. As I told you, I will be discussing about the topic neglected tropical disease. So NOMA is one name of the disease which is now been added into neglected tropical disease. Let us first discuss the word what are neglected tropical diseases. These are diverse group of conditions, diverse group of diseases for which we are not focusing much. Yes, the tropical areas, the diseases are prevalent, but we are not investing much in such kind of tropical diseases, and that is why they are neglected. So NOMA, which is basically known as Cancurum, is one of the aspect of this particular disease which is now being, which affects the ages of the 3 to 10 year of people, is now being added into the list, and underscoring the urgent need to address this particular health challenge. It advances, basically this evidences of such kind of a disease indicate that NOMA is caused by a bacteria found in the mouth. So the children of a specific age are being attacked. So you students, they are caused by variety of pathogens, and I have listed some of them. Some of the diseases which are neglectedly tropical diseases like helminthes, the worms. Related to worms, there is Teniasis. There is a specific foodborne trematodysis. Then the particular other aspects of the disease are there. From the protozoa, there are Chagas, Leishmaniasis, Trypanosomiasis. इसे हम sleeping sickness भी कहते हैं. We call it as sleeping sickness. Then fungal diseases are there. Some of the bacterial diseases are there. Trachoma is one of them. Yaws is one of them. Leprosy is one of them. Then ectoparasites, which are present outside the body. Viral diseases, rabies and dengue and chikungunya are also there. So moving further, this is non-contagious disease. One point, it is non-contagious, and it basically with weakened defense people, it poses a significant threat, significant problem to the children, and particularly which are malnourished. But the mortality rate is around 90%, which is a problem. The key factors affects is the poor oral hygiene, malnutrition and all those things. And the term neglected highlights the insufficient attention that we are showing towards such kind of diseases. There is a funding problem which is there basically. So global initiatives includes WHO's new roadmap of 2021 to 2030, that ultimately the global efforts are there against such kind of diseases which are neglected tropical diseases. And London Declaration of 2012 recognize the global burden of neglected tropical diseases. India's initiative includes the launch in 2018 that we have intensified our efforts in elimination of this particular disease. WHO also support us, and ultimately successful elimination. India has eliminated guinea worm, trachoma, we just discussed it, and yaws. So India has already eliminated these particular diseases. Next topic is tech transfer of cholera vaccine. So students, cholera is basically again caused by a bacteria, and the name of the bacteria is Vibrio cholera. Cholera is a waterborne disease, and transmission is from contaminated water. These are the basics. So International Vaccine Institute announced that it is commenced as a technology transfer simplified for oral cholera vaccines, right? So Biological E, a Hyderabad based pharma company, has signed such kind of a licensed agreement in 2023, and OCS, oral cholera vaccine, is a simplified formulation aimed at reducing the production cost. So if it will be an oral vaccine, the cost will be definitely reduced. So bacterial infection, I've just told you, Vibrio cholerae is the name of the organism. This is the particular photograph. Contaminated food and water are the reason, and inadequate sanitation is a problem. The prevention or the treatment related to this is, the treatment is that most patients, they are basically the oral rehydration solution which is there, which is being provided, ORS, and essential for children under 5 years of age. The diarrhea situation which are there, we need to be monitored. Yes, the vaccines are there, and WHO approved oral vaccines are already there, which is there in the market. It is already there, right? The next topic is transplantation of the pig kidney, and the word which is related to this is xenotransplantation. So recently, US surgeons, they have said that first time a pig kidney has been transplanted to a living person. So you see how this happens. This is basically xenograft, xenotransplantation. Xenotransplantation is there. So we do not use the pig kidney directly. What we do, we take the cells of the pigs. When we take the cells of the pigs, we do the genetic engineering in these particular cells. So we should ensure that whatever the organ that is going to be developed from the pig cells, that should not be rejected by the body. So then what we do the nuclear cloning. The nucleus has been taken, we do the nuclear cloning, and then in the laboratory, we multiply these cells. Once the multiplication of these cells happen, then the pig which is being born out of it is genetically engineered pig whose organs are now being used. So remember this, it is not the pig from the wild that has been taken. It is basically the genetically engineered pig which is used. So xenotransplantation involves transplanting the organs from one species to another, from one animal to another, and we have used the pig's kidney, right? Transplantation, live cells, tissues, organs from the non-human organisms that I've already told you, and ultimately it's a ex vivo contact. What do you mean by vivo and what do you mean by vitro? Vitro means in laboratory, and vivo means inside the body. And when we are using the word ex vivo, that means we are using it outside the body. Ex vivo, not in vivo, outside the body, exterior, right? So this is basically in vivo and in vitro, the terms. We are using ex vivo, that means outside. Procedures where organ cells and tissues are taken from the living body for the treatment outside the body. Then need for xenotransplantation is that there is an increasing demand of the organs which is there for the patients, and advancements have happened. Genetically modified pigs are being used. I have just now told you. That is why we are using such xenotransplants. The next topic is a simple one. Now the topics are very simple actually. One of the topic is that the ICAR is basically the Agricultural Research and Animal Research Institute which is there, National Research Center for Equines, that is horses, which is there in Hisar, Haryana, is basically designated as a WHO, World Organization, World Organization for Animal Health References, right? And it's a laboratory for equine, basically horses, which is there. And India has about 0.55 million horses, ponies, donkeys, and mules. Everyone is all these species are covered in this. And these concentrations are there in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Haryana. So what we are doing is a tick-borne disease is there. This is the name of the disease. And it is basically caused by a protozoa, parasite, right? The name of the parasite is this, Babesia. And it is basically, second name, this is the second name of the particular protozoa. And they have reported some kind of problems which are there in country India. So affected species are, they're basically serious threat to equines, particularly horses and donkeys. And symptoms include making diagnosis challenging because many a times the symptoms are not shown directly. So this is one of the aspects, and the transmission happens from the infected animal to another, transmitting parasite, ticks, parasite vectors which are there, and blood contamination instruments are also spreading it. And geographical spread is basically endemic to tropical and temperate regions, right? The treatment currently, there is no available vaccine for such horses. So you see this tick is there. It's a natural transmission via competent tick. Then I've already told you regarding the blood transfusion instruments. Then some kind of a transplacental, that means from one generation to next generation, even in the womb, it is being transmitted. So when we talk about IOC, that is World Organization Animal Health, WOAH, established as OIC, Office of International Des Epizootics, in 1924. Later on, the name was changed in 2003. So the purpose is that it promotes the animal welfare and sustainability through transparent disease information. And India's role is that India is one of its member countries. Magnetic resonance imaging. Let's go to the magnetic imaging, resonance imaging. So what exactly it does? It basically images these soft tissues. Now, what do you mean by soft tissues and what do you mean by hard tissues? So you see there is an X-ray. X-ray basically images the hard bones where the calcification has been done. So the soft tissues in the body are those where hasn't been harder enough using the calcification. Calcification means calcium deposition. Calcium deposition is not much, right? So magnetic resonance imaging stands for crucial method to look inside the human body without surgery, and non-invasive diagnostic procedures are possible now using these kind of MRIs, and particularly in cardiovascular system, spinal cord system, joints, and various liver and arteries, right, students? So it's important in observation and treatment of certain cancers, prostate cancer, rectal cancer, all those things, Alzheimer diseases, dementia, epilepsy. So all these things are aspects are possible because of MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. The next topic is oxytocin. Oxytocin, you all know it's a love hormone, right? And recently Delhi High Court ordered the state authorities to take an action against the misuse or wrong usage of the oxytocin hormone in the cattle industry. So what this hormone is all about, basically this is the structure of this particular hormone, you need not to learn it. This is basically secreted from the pituitary glands, first of all it's in the brain, right? Then in mammals particularly, and during the intercourse, sexual relationships, these hormones are released. During the childbirth, during the lactation by the mother, and even for the social bonding, such oxytocin hormone has importance. Even the love that is shown by a mother to a kid, it is because of the oxytocin hormone, and it is a neurotransmitter also. So what exactly it does, it plays a very important role both in male and females. This is an important line, you must know this. In the females, there is an increasing contractions during the labor where this is being used, while during lactation periods, feeding of a baby, there also they are used. They act as a chemical messenger in the brain that influences the important elements of our behavior, of social interaction, connections, bondings, emotional attachment, all those things. And it prevents the new mothers from excessive bleeding after giving the birth. That is also important. But nowadays what is happening is that oxytocin, this hormone, is being misused illegally for increasing the milk production in the dairy animals. It's overused in the milch cattle. Milch cattle are the ones which are yielding milk, and even giving birth. During the time of the birth, these kinds of oxytocin hormones are given, and this is absolutely not right, this is not good, and that is why Delhi court have ordered the government to look into this action. Calcium carbide, FSSAI, Food Safety Standards Authority of India, they published a comprehensive guidance on document artificial ripening of fruits, and this basically happened by the ethylene gas. So ethylene is an hormone, is responsible for fruit ripening, and this is basically manufactured or produced by heating lime and carbon mixture at a specific degree, approximately 2100 degree, in electric arc or furnace, and this is commonly used for ripening fruits, particularly mangoes. So the concern is that it releases acetylene gas, and it is basically very harmful, and it is very harmful, and it's harmful. These harmful substances, they are often known as masala, and can also cause serious issues of dizziness, frequent thirst, irritation, weakness, swallowing, vomiting, and even skin ulcers. And acetylene gas is also equally hazardous to those handling it. So that is why this issue is there in news. And ultimately, when we talk about the regulation by FSSAI, definitely FSSAI will come forward. It has banned it due to these dangers. Calcium carbide for ripening fruits has been banned under regulation 2.3.5 of FSSAI standards, regulation 2011. Remember this part, right? Permitted safety limits, there are some permitted safety limits, but rampant use which is there, it has literally banned it. And there should not be, we should look forward for alternatives definitely, but it is not allowed at all. Ethylene gas can be used to the concentrations up to 100 ppm, that is parts per million. ppm stands for parts per million. Parts per million, and depending upon the crop, variety, and maturity. So this is basically about the ethylene and acetylene. So ethylene is a naturally occurring hormone in the fruits. This is natural. What is happening? That acetylene, it is called as ethine, and it is kernel-less gas which is used as a chemical for ultimately using it, blocking widely, and also used as a fuel, right? Then non-infectious Nipah virus like particles, they are sometimes being seen, and recently scientists at the Institute of Advanced Virology in Kerala, they have developed such kind of non-infectious Nipah virus like particles mimicking the wild Nipah virus. So what is the use of it? It is basically the virus like particles. They are not exactly the virus, they are virus like particles. They are closely resembling the virus. Definitely they're not causing the disease, and they are non-infectious, but they contain no viral genome. So you must know this, they contain no genetic material of the virus. They carry most of the characteristics of the virus except the ability to replicate as the viral genome does. So significance is safe and effective platform. This new method is going to be offering as an alternate and safe and effective platform for developing neutralizing antibodies. So this is for the research purpose basically. And biosafety levels, we can also test such biosafety levels using these particular particles. So when you create such particles, they're non-infectious, and then you can study about them, you can research about them. That is the whole purpose here. Heavy metal contamination in the groundwater. So researchers at Indian Institute of Sciences, IISc, they have developed a new 3-step process to remove the heavy metal contaminants such as arsenic from the groundwater. And IISc is basically has done this in collaboration with Bhagalpur and Karnataka Chikbalapur systems, rural areas. Basically in this method, it is designed that heavy contaminants must be removed, and not only arsenic but also it guarantees other specific contaminants. So the 3 processes: adsorption, bioremediation, and environment friendly disposal. Remember these points, that is more than enough with respect to the topic. Not much can be asked out of it. These are the specific processes. So what is bioremediation? Is using the microorganisms for clearing the pollutants. Okay. So what are heavy metals? This can be asked to you. What is heavy metals? Heavy metals are basically, they are defined as metallic elements with high density compared to water. And metalloids like arsenic, they are toxicity if the concentration is increased, and ultimately there are specific limits, and arsenic in drinking water can limit up to 10 parts per billion is applied, but not more than that. Contamination status in India is basically number of districts which are there which are affected by arsenic. Fluoride levels, definitely there can be high, and fluoride in drinking water, it is again recommends a provisional limit of 1.0 milligram per kilogram in drinking water, right? So these are the standards that can be used. Human African trypanosomiasis. Okay, so human African trypanosomiasis, that is sleeping sickness, the WHO accounts Chad, this particular country, has successfully eradicated this particular disease. So this has become basically the first country of the year and the 51st in the world. And this in context to neglected tropical disease, this is one of them. WHO has validated elimination of Gambies basically in different other countries also. So 2020 Togo was there, other African nations which were there. So 51st one is Chad. So when we talk about HAT, it is basically the sleeping sickness disease, and human African trypanosomiasis is caused by a protozoa parasite, and the name of the parasite is sissy fly. This is basically sissy fly. If the disease is treated fatal, if untreated, causing symptoms like fatigue, headache, and severe cases of coma also there. So fight against neglected tropical diseases. This is one step. Then ultimately there are two other forms which are there: Trypanosoma bruceigambiasis and rhodesiensis. Okay, so 92% of the cases are related to Trypanosoma bruceigambiasis. Yes, this is very important news. Recently, what happened in Tamil Nadu, there was a case of what you can say hooch, alcohol. So basically, it was methanol, liquor problem which was there, where the harmful methanol alcohol was produced, and this has taken 34 lives in Tamil Nadu, and which was a very big case. So the chemical formula of methanol is CH3OH. So instead of ethanol, C2H5OH, methanol was produced. Right? So consists of one carbon atom bonded with 3 hydrogen atom and 1 hydroxyl group. So this is the hydroxyl group, OH, right? And methanol is produced by combining carbon monoxide and hydrogen, and ultimately it is basically responsible for nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and even blindness. Even it may cause blindness, methanol poisoning. So applications is basically the number of applications are there of methanol, but at the industrial level it is there, but at the liquor level it has to be ethanol. If there is a conversion of methanol instead of ethanol, then such kind of problems happens. So FSSAI, Alcoholic Beverages Regulation Act of 2018, stipulates that maximum permissible quantity of methanol is different liquors. It ranges from basically it is absent in coconut fenny, 50 grams per 100 liters in country liquor, and 300 grams per 100 liters basically in pot distilled spirits. Methanol poisoning includes in the Schedule 1 of the manufacture, storage, and the imports of hazardous chemical. Indian standards IS applies how the quality of methanol has to be ascertained. So Tamil Nadu denatured spirit, methyl alcohol, basically these are the rules, regulations. So this is pure theory, students. There's nothing to teach. The aspect related to methanol, the applications of methanol can be asked, refer to it. Streamlining food regulatories in India. So FSSAI approved number of amendments which are there related to this particular aspect. So multiple certification would no longer need to be obtained from various authorities. What you can do is the specific one single window clearances are required. Food goods, just FSSAI certificate is absolutely necessary. Neither AgMark nor Bureau of Indian Standard BIS certification is required or necessary. This is a very good step actually, because due to the number of agencies which give the certification, the aspects of corruption, the aspects of delays, the aspects of other aspects which are related, it's a very good step. Currently mandatory certification under BSIS Act or AgMark scheme was mandated, but now it is not required. Certain food products such as infant formula, packaged drinking water, milk powder require BIS certifications. So for blending edible vegetable oils and fat, usme bhi AgMark was required, but now the things have really changed. So AgMark certification, you must know, that is basically the Directorate of Marketing and Inspection in accordance with Agriculture Produce 1937 Act. Ministry is Farmer Welfare and Agriculture. Next topic is Wolbachia bacteria. Wolbachia bacteria is basically for controlling the mosquitoes. So students, the context is that the researchers of Wolbachia bacteria, they have manipulated the wasp entirely to get rid of its males. Earlier, the method was asked, it was a PYQ, basically Wolbachia method is related to what? So mosquitoes, it was basically related to insects, that is mosquitoes, but now it has been applied to the wasp. So Wolbachia are common bacteria which are found in 50% of the insect species, including mosquitoes, fruit flies, moths, dragonflies, butterflies, etc. And the researchers, this particular method, they use Wolbachia infected mosquitoes to control the dengue transmission. This was the specific aspect which was asked in the exam. Now, transmission dynamics is basically insect eggs which are targeted and not the sperms, and transmitted only by the females. So ultimately the male population is going to be eliminated, and this is how it is going to impact. But the importance with context to the wasp is that ultimately the first biological pest control agent that help control whiteflies and major agricultural pest, right? And even the biological control mechanism, and female wasps are effective hunters. So female wasps serve as a effective search and destroy agents against whiteflies, with males not needed at all. So this method can be asked to you. You must know that it is related to what. The next topic is universal immunization program. West Bengal government has introduced an additional dose of injectable polio vaccine. Polio, it has already been eradicated from our country, and basically what it affects the central nervous system. You must know this. It affects the muscle weakness and the disability and even death in the children. You must know this. Then there are different 3 types of polio. All 3 are eliminated, and polio type 1 exists in circulation in the world, particularly in Afghanistan and Afghanistan. Vaccines, yes, there is a IPV, inactivated polio vaccine. There are even oral polio vaccine. The program which is there for vaccine is the Pulse Polio program of government, which was also promoted by Amitabh Bachchan ji, right? So I've just told you Pulse polio immunization program in 1995, and 2012 WHO removed India from the list of endemic countries, and 2014 India was declared polio free. The next topic is new treatment regime for drug resistance. So India is preparing to introduce BPAL regime for all patients with multi-extensively drug resistant tuberculosis. I have just taught you with respect to MDR and XDR. So it is basically all oral combination of drugs, and specifically these drugs are being used, and they are definitely expected to be more cost effective and reducing the treatment cost significantly. This is the aspect which is related. I have told you about MDR and XDR TB, second line drugs and particularly first line drugs. So the topic is already covered. Moving to the next topic, it is monkeypox. The topic is basically the International Health Regulation Emergency Committee of the WHO. They have declared monkeypox as a public health emergency of international concern, right? So this is the specific topic. An infectious zoonotic disease. You must know it is a zoonotic disease. The species is basically the pox virus, right? These are the specific aspects. There can be fever, rashes, chills, headaches, muscle ache, fatigue, joint pains, and such kind of aspects, pox, which are there throughout the body, and they are mostly seen in kids. So this is monkeypox, basic symptoms. So monkeypox basically is clade 1, the dominant strain, with 3 to 6% mortality rate. It affects the young children. Clade 2, which is basically less dangerous, right? The causative agent is orthopoxvirus. So pox virus is there. I've just told you. The agents are basically animals. So it's a zoonotic disease. Squirrels are there. Some dormice are there. Some rats are there. They are basically the reason for transmission. Endemic to Central and West Africa, some tropical countries, like rainforest countries. And transmission is basically direct contact, bodily fluids, skin lesions, contaminations, all those things are there. It's 5 to 21 days of incubation period where the symptoms will not be seen. Treatment is basically related to the modification of for the pox virus itself, and currently antiviral drugs are being given. So these are the names of the drugs. You need not to remember the drugs names. That's it. Vaccines, 2 types of vaccines which are already available and which were currently used for smallpox, and now they are being used for monkeypox. Next is the new initiative related to advanced mRNA vaccine. So here in this aspect, you just need to know what are mRNA vaccines. So let us take this particular virus. From the virus, we know the genetic material would be there, and that RNA we take this RNA and we apply the lipid nanoparticles around it. Using these lipid nanoparticles, we introduce them, inject them into the human body. Within the human body, due to the lipoparticle, it is going to enter the cell. Within the cell, it is going to integrate into the nucleus of the particular organism. And from there, the transcription translation is going to happen and the antigens will be produced. Using these antigen, the antibodies will be produced, and ultimately we can infect the virus if the next time the virus is coming. So we are basically using the mRNA, and that is why the vaccine is called as mRNA vaccine. So new project to accelerate the development and accessibility of H5N1 mRNA vaccine manufactured in lower and middle income countries, and it incorporates mRNA technology transfer program. So the focus area here is how the mRNA vaccine works. That is the basic question that can be asked to you. This is something which has been already explained here, but what I have done, I have given you the diagram and I have explained it well in context to mRNA messenger vaccine. So a messenger RNA, you know, I've just told you this is the mRNA, the genetic material which is being used, right? So mRNA technology transfer programs of the WHO, you see it is in mid 2021 in middle and low income countries the program started, and it was initially set up technology development hub in South Africa. One of the next topic is West Nile fever. In Kerala, government has recently issued the warning to the state regarding the West Nile fever. It's a viral illness that is spread through mosquitoes, and the virus is West Nile virus, single stranded RNA. Natural host is basically the birds, and ultimately first outbreak has been discovered in the female resident of the West Nile. That is why it is called as West Nile virus in 1937. So in Kerala, such kind of aspects of the West Nile fever has been seen. This fever is spread through Culex mosquito bite. So definitely it is basically the vector which is required is Culex mosquito, and in fact the humans, birds, mosquitoes, horses and other animals, mammals. Lack of vaccine is there. You must know about this particular West Nile fever. Vidal test is basically for typhoid. Vidal test is basically for typhoid, and this has been mentioned here, used for diagnosing typhoid. Typhoid is again a waterborne disease. Waterborne and contaminated food. Contaminated food. Okay. And antibodies detection, similar to other infections, our immune system generate antibodies in response to the bacteria responsible for entire fever, enteric fever, and Vidal test rapidly detects the quantities of antibodies. So this particular test has been erroneous results in obfuscating India's typhoid burden and increasing the expenses and risk more than antimicrobial resistance. This is one aspect that we are discussing here. So concerns related to Vidal test. So it is being said that there are many concerns related to Vidal test. Ineffectiveness of the single dose, and then there are standardized problems are there, and impact of the reagents which are also there. So yes, such kind of a news is there. It is there, but it is generally being used, this Vidal test, for the typhoid cases. Right? So all these aspects are mentioned here. So typhoid, if in context to typhoid comes up, so typhoid is caused by Salmonella typhi. It is basically caused by a bacteria. So notable rise in rejection of the Indian spice shipments. Recently there was salmonella contamination which was seen in the spices, particularly in MDH masale. And the symptoms of salmonella is indigestion, stomach pains, fever, vomiting, nausea, headache. So in the past 6 months, about 1/3 of the MDH masale, their shipments were turned away. So it is basically the salmonella infection. So it's a genus of bacteria. Salmoniasis is basically the disease which is being caused, and it's a foodborne illness. The source is typically related to contaminated food and water, and salmonella is highly contagious. Ultimately, it is spreads from one person to another person through direct contact or food mediated transmissions. Symptoms I have just told you. The last topic is fentanyl synthetic opioids. Is basically the US Secretary of the State spoke about the production of exports opioid basically precursors, specifically the drug fentanyl, leading cause to among the Americans aged from 18 to 49. So they are basically the class of drugs that are basically mimicking the natural substrates of the opium poppy plant, and these are the basically morphine and all are the opioids, right? Impact is, according to US drug enforcement, they are very addictive. Yes, they are very addictive, and opioids have the instantaneous effect on your body, quickly necessitating regularity of the usage that is required. So this particular synthetic opioid is there in the picture. Potent synthetic drug approved by the Food and Drug Administrator, used for analgesic. Analgesic means relieving the pain. An overdose can cause lot of issues. Skin problems are there. Pupil size can increase. Even the coma situation and respiratory failures can also happen. This is related to this particular topic. Back pain is the disease. Basically, this is the Punjab Agricultural University, Ludhiana, has developed this biocontrol agent. This is the agent, Trichoderma aspergillum, to combat the foot rot disease in the basmati varieties of rice. So basically, it is also known as Beckane disease. So foot rot disease is called as Beckane disease. The agent is basically Fusarium, and this is the basically the information that can be used in the exam. Not much. So students, with this particular aspect, the last slide is there. This particular Trichoderma aspergillum, it is basically a biocontrol agent and development in the rice farming techniques, bringing in the more sustainable strategy, and that will offer non-chemical alternative and traditional pesticides. It affects the basmati rice crops, ultimately seedlings stage, and cause infection. And this symptoms is basically it turns yellow, it is elongated, and eventually it dies. So I've tried my best to cover most of the topics. See, the later half of the topics were very factual. You just need to read them once. The specific question may not be very factual information that will be there related to the topics. So students, I would like you to advise you to focus on the disease, the causative agent, the effects, the symptoms, all those things you must relate. You must relate to the ministry, you must relate to the ministry number, name, and also if there is any kind of act, any particularly regulatory body act or a particular bill act is there, that you must know all about these particular topics. Good wishes from my end. I will come forward with the other topics. This topic was more on the factual side. We'll look forward to the other topics, and wherever possible, wherever required, I'll teach you the aspects or the theoretical aspects related to science and technology. Thank you so much, students. Good wishes from my end. Take care.